Hello once again, everyone. You're watching Crunch Republican. Today, Evan McMullin, a former CIA officer and a longtime Republican, a never-Trump Republican in fact, announced his candidacy for the presidency of the United States on the independent platform. There are way too many people on way too many different platforms running for president, and because politics has been so polarizing this season, everybody feels that they need to stick in their 2 cents. So Evan McMullin was on Fox News tonight, and I just had to record a response to that interview, if it even was an interview, because it lasted 5 seconds, and no matter what, I mean, they didn't even give the dude a chance. Basically, they brought up the point that 26 states have already closed the opportunity for him to be on the ballot for the general election in those states, first of all, because he's come into the race so late, and he also commented on that. But he's when he was interviewing on Fox News, he really did not, sell himself enough as a viable alternative to Donald Trump. He said he was against Hillary Clinton, but he really came out kind of weak, and it also felt like he was more selling himself like a product on Shark Tank. It's absolutely absurd that this dude thinks that just because he has the credibility being a part of the CIA, that now he could just suddenly come out so late in the season. I mean, we're 3 months away from Election Day, and he thinks he can come out this late and get votes, especially in 26 states out of 50, and think that don't have him on the ballot, and think that he could actually have a chance of winning. The chances of him winning are probably smaller than 1%. So let's look at the facts. He claims himself as a credible candidate and a credible alternative. He's a lifelong Republican, and he says that Donald Trump is not a conservative. Well, I mean, Donald Trump is embracing conservative policies, and he's complying with the GOP platform. He's endorsed Paul Ryan. He's had many meetings and seems very friendly with Chairman Priebus, and he respects the Constitution. I said that in my video where I explained reasons that to support Donald Trump. He understands the 10th Amendment, which basically explains states' rights. Very, very clear outlining that, saying that anything not in the Constitution is up to the jurisdiction of the states or the people. And he respects the Second Amendment. He respects every single amendment in the Constitution, and I have no doubt in my mind that Trump will take those policies into the Oval Office. But again, like I said before, I didn't even have enough time to get the background on this dude, Evan McMullin, because he couldn't even get control over the interview. Whoever he was being interviewed by, I'm sorry, I don't know everyone's name on Fox News because I don't watch conservative media all the time. I like to stay informed on both the liberal and the conservative sides, and also just like to take a look at independent journals. But whoever was interviewing him kept interrupting him as if, already telling him, hey, you've got no shot. Now listen, America's the land of opportunity, and hey, if you want to get in the race this late, 26 states have already barred you from running, but although he claims he has alternative ways to get on those ballots, I'm not sure how much money he has on his pocket to bribe them, but he could not get control over that interview. He was very frank with the fact that he's a lifelong Republican and that nobody can trust Donald Trump and how he's fallen in the polls, but this is all just because Hillary Clinton has had a larger post-convention bump than expected. The interviewer was all over his back, and he was going, So he didn't really present himself as a strong candidate, so I already feel like he's going to be a weak alternative if he could even get anywhere in the polls. I mean, for a third-party candidate, at least I'm going to have to give Gary Johnson some credit for getting up to 12%. At least that's where he is now, I believe, in the Real Clear Politics polls. Gary Johnson's getting up there, and that Fight for 15 thing, not the minimum wage, surprisingly, but that Fight for 15 thing I think is really working. Gary Johnson is finding a way to connect with the people, although I doubt he'll be able to make it to 15 by the time we start the general election debates in September, which is next month. All the best to Gary Johnson. At least I agree with some of the things he says, but he's also a weak candidate. You see, I mean, he's had 2 town halls now, and during the first town hall, which was a complete train wreck, he dodged questions. He was assaulted practically by the question from some woman who was talking about, I believe it was medical marijuana or something like that, or drugs. affecting her family or whatnot. Very sad story, and she really attacked Gary Johnson for it. I felt so bad. And he goes and he dodges the question. His eyes bulged out of his head more than, I've ever seen Daffy Duck do. But I mean, without really ragging on Gary Johnson that much, I believe that the Libertarian Party would have much more respect this election season, especially because of me admitting that there's low favorability of both Trump and Clinton. I think the Libertarian Party would be better off if Bill Weld, the vice presidential candidate with Gary Johnson, was the presidential candidate, and Gary Johnson was out of the picture completely. He got about, I think it was 1 million votes in the 2012 election, which is not very representative of the entire population, but that's still pretty good for a third-party candidate. But, I mean, overall, if Bill Weld were the Libertarian candidate, I think I would have a lot more respect for the Libertarian Party, and I think he was able to handle the questions during the town halls way more seriously. On another note, now that we've talked about Evan McMullin because he completely blew his chance, I just started hearing about him today because he announced his candidacy, and I heard Lifelong Republican, and I thought, hey, you know what, maybe people who are not for Trump, maybe they'll have an alternative, and maybe he'll be able to do something in the short time he has to beat out Gary Johnson and, put another Republican on the debate stage. I mean, I'm all for that. But the fact that he completely went and blew it and he couldn't even get control of the interview shows that he's a weak candidate and he's not really going to get anywhere at all. I mean, it's not like he or Gary Johnson or Jill Stein have a realistic path to the White House, unless Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump suddenly, tank so low in the polls that they're even deeper than the Mariana Trench. But putting all that aside, the current state of our election right now is really nuts. This is not representative of any election we've had before in history, and it's because, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, this country is so divided, and a lot of people are willing to look for an alternative. What I don't understand is how there's a lot of hypocrisy going on. You have all these, so for example, I think the prime example would be all these Bernie supporters that were really for Bernie Sanders, really for his revolution, which he claims is still going on, but yet he supports the establishment, he supports Hillary Clinton, he doesn't even seek an alternative path to the presidency because he really did have something going, and his supporters are still with him. I think that there was a small but fair percentage of Bernie supporters who either went to Donald Trump or who went to Jill Stein, because she's also promoting a socialist plan and a socialist agenda that's going to decrease the size of our economy and tax people more. It's kind of all the same on the left, isn't it? They're really just trying to attack the right and make everything, blame everything on us, or blame anything on any dissenting opinions. But there's hypocrisy in that, and the fact that people are still supporting Bernie Sanders on the far left, but yet he supports the establishment he claimed to be against. Hillary Clinton, her hypocrisy is the fact that she claims that she's against the 1% and that she'll do everything in her power to make sure they pay more, they'll pay their fair share, or whatever she says, but yet she is a prime example of someone who's an insider part of the 1%. She also claims to be an outsider, but yet she's been running for president for 25 years. So I don't know what the deal with that is either. In my point of view, and this is just my point of view, you as a viewer, you as an American, or you as a citizen of the world can have any opinion you want. If it's different than my own, that's great. I totally respect it, but I believe that Trump is an outsider because he's never really been a politician before. He's never really gotten this involved in the politics. Without putting too much praise on him in a video about alternative candidates, I just want to point out that he has a lot of experience with dealing with other countries, especially in making deals with big names, big people in those countries. And he's been able to sell a lot of things to those countries and get a lot back in return and make some very fair deals. And he is the most outsider like candidate, I guess. If you're looking for a candidate like that, maybe you should go and look at Trump's policies, look at what Trump wants. He just had made a speech today about his economic plan, which is going to do some very, very, very good things for the middle class, especially because he wants to lower the corporate income tax rate to 15%, and he wants to have the biggest tax cut since Reagan, which is outstanding for bringing jobs back to the country and getting people back to work, especially in blue-collar jobs. But yeah, maybe if you're looking for an outsider candidate, definitely go reevaluate the kind of plans that Trump is putting out. Because I think, I predict that there's a rise in the polls coming up, and Hillary Clinton's going to reach her low point by the time that people start really realizing how she's really manipulating the people. And she'll be at her low point in probably the range of the mid 40% range in general election polls, and Trump's going to rise from wherever he is, 36% or whatever. I think he'll rise to about 47 or 48 in the coming 3 months, and we'll have a very close election. I also predict that, as a Floridian, that Trump is going to win Florida. I think he can definitely win over this state, especially with the influence he's got shared with Mike Pence. But overall, if you want to learn more about my position about Trump, please go check out that other video on my channel about how I explain the best reasons to support him. But otherwise, yeah, we had Evan McMullin on tonight on Fox News. 5-second interview. It really was not that long at all. I was typing really fast to get some notes in, and only got a few. So that's why I was only able to talk so much about Evan McMullin. But he does not seem like a fair alternative at all. He has no chance, and he shouldn't have even announced his candidacy because he's going to ruin his reputation, whatever his reputation is. He did not rub me the right way. He did not make a very good first impression. And when you really want to make it a national impression like that, you really need to get out there and you need to put yourself out in like the first 30 seconds. You need to explain yourself and make yourself really likable and really relatable, I guess. Within the first 30 seconds of you speaking to anybody. That's what makes a really good first impression. And you also have to listen and respect other people's views. That's also very important. But I guess that's it. So we talked a little bit about Evan McMullin and his comparisons to Gary Johnson and Donald Trump. And if you enjoyed this, then I guess just keep watching. Thank you guys so much for listening. More videos will be coming soon, and I will see you around next time.